Was I going to keep trying to write and practice law and be a single mom? Or was I going to finally give up this dream of being a writer? I'm Wendy Walker, and I'm the author of psychological thrillers. I'm also the mother to 3 wonderful sons. I am so excited about my next project, an Audible original novel called American Girl. When I was growing up, I was good at figure skating. It was a difficult lesson to learn when I was 16 and realized that I was not going to be good enough to make the Olympic team and fulfill that dream. But I found a new dream. I studied economics in college and became an investment banker. I then went to law school and I became a lawyer. And then I got married and had a baby and took some time off. I wanted to build a career that would enable me to spend a lot of time with my beautiful boys. And writing was the idea that came into my head. If I could go back to that moment when I decided to write a novel and see if I could make it a career, I would do a lot of things differently. I thought that because there was no clear path, that I could make up any path I wanted. And then I plotted out my own legal thriller using some of the techniques that I saw in what I thought was one of the best legal thrillers I'd ever read. It was The Pelican Brief. And for 3 years, while I was having my babies and raising my babies, I worked on this novel. I was lucky enough to find a writing professor who read the novel and delivered the following message. You have a great story. You're a good storyteller, but you don't know how to write a novel. So I revised that first novel and I was able to find an agent. I was on my way to being a successful author. That book did not sell. And while it wasn't selling, I decided to write another novel. And that book actually was published, but they weren't published for a large enough advance for me to consider it a career. And at that point, I was getting divorced, so I was a single mom. I decided I needed to go back to the law and I found work in family law. And that's where I got my training in psychology. So here I've published 2 novels. They were not successful. I was a single mom and working as a family law attorney. I had to make a decision. So I went back to my agent and I told her I was going to write one more book. And I asked her where the market was strong and where it was strong in places where I had skills. And she said, you should try your hand at psychological thrillers. 2 months off from my legal practice, I wrote All Is Not Forgotten. And that book established my career. There was a bidding war with all 5 publishing houses. We sold the movie rights. So 17 years and 2 months later, that dream finally came true. American Girl started with this emotional feeling within myself that brought me back to when I was a teenage girl. So there is a direct connection between me and Charlie Hudson. When I started writing Charlie's story, I realized that I was writing an autistic teenager. When I told Audible that I wanted to write this character as an autistic teenager, they were fully on board. I did so much research, spoke to a pediatrician, a child psychologist, and throughout the writing of the manuscript, we had someone who was able to advise on the behaviors and the complexities of the autistic teenage experience. First, figure out what you want to write. Number 2, build up your toolbox. The biggest mistake I made is not knowing how many tools are required to tell a story. And then number 3, look at the market. So it's a combination of being inspired and motivated, and then being hardworking and getting your tools, and then recognizing that there's a business element to it. People have asked me whether there were moments during these 17 years that I thought about giving up writing, and of course there were. It would be impossible not to have doubt when you face failure or partial success and when the stakes are getting higher and higher. And I learned this lesson that you actually can reinvent yourself, that we all have so many skills and so much resilience inside of us that just because one dream doesn't come true doesn't mean that others won't.